You saved for 8 months. You did the math. You checked the price 3 times before clicking buy. And the day arrived. The boat, the home gym, the luxury espresso machine, whatever it was, you felt it. That specific kind of joy that only comes from finally getting the thing you worked for. That feeling lasted maybe 6 weeks. Then the storage fees came. Then the maintenance. Then the insurance renewal. Then you realized the trailer needed new tires, or the gym cables needed replacing, or the machine needed a filter kit that cost $60 every 2 months and only ships from a warehouse in another state. And somewhere in the middle of all that, you started picking up extra shifts. Not to buy something new, just to keep the thing you already own. Nobody told you about that part. Nobody puts the real number on the price tag. They show you the sticker price. They do not show you the cost of keeping it alive. That is what this is about, not the purchase. The invisible price tag that attaches itself to every major thing you own and quietly drains the account you thought you were building. Let's start with something that almost everyone gets wrong. When most people think about whether they can afford something, they ask one question: do I have enough money to buy it right now? If the answer is yes, they buy it. That is the entire calculation. Purchase price in, money out, done. But that is not how ownership actually works. Ownership is not a moment. It is a relationship. And like most relationships, it gets more expensive over time. The real cost of owning something is not what you paid on day one. The real cost is the sum of everything that thing will ever demand from you, in money, in time, in space, and in mental energy, from the day you buy it until the day you finally get rid of it. Economists have a name for this. They call it the total cost of ownership. But you do not need an economics degree to understand it. You just need to look at your life honestly. Think about the last major purchase you made. The car, the vacation home, the high-end camera you were going to use for your hobby, the boat, the gym equipment that now hold your jackets. Now ask yourself, what does that thing cost you every single month? Not the monthly payment. Everything. Storage, insurance, licensing, maintenance, cleaning supplies, replacement parts, the subscription required to access its digital features, the fuel, the fees, the repairs you keep postponing. Add all of that up. Now multiply it by 12. Now multiply that by every year you have owned it and every year you plan to keep owning it. That number is almost certainly larger than the original price tag. That is the invisible price tag. And for most people, it is attached to not just one item, but to dozens. Here is where it gets darker. When you buy something major, a boat for instance, you do not just buy the boat. You buy an entirely new ecosystem of mandatory expenses that the boat requires to exist in your life. The boat needs a trailer. The trailer needs registration. The registration needs renewal. You need somewhere to store both when you're not using them. That storage facility charges you $140 a month, and the rate goes up every January. The engine needs winterization every fall, which costs a few $100s if you do it yourself, and significantly more if you pay someone. The hull needs annual inspection. The safety equipment, the life jackets, the flares, the fire extinguisher, all have expiration dates. The insurance is required by the marina. The marina has fees of its own. You bought one thing, but one thing brought 11 things with it, and every one of those 11 things costs money on a recurring basis. This is what you might call the lifestyle multiplier effect. One major purchase does not just cost what it costs. It multiplies into a network of secondary and tertiary costs that live with you indefinitely. The home gym is the same story. You buy the rack, the weights, the barbell, but then you need flooring to protect the surface. Then you need a mirror because you cannot form properly without one. Then you need chalk, bands, straps. The cables snap after 2 years, and a replacement kit is not cheap. If you want a cardio component, that is another machine with its own maintenance contract. If it is in the garage, you need to heat or cool it where you will not use in the extreme months, which means you will pay a gym membership anyway during those seasons, on top of what you already own. You bought freedom from the gym. You ended up with a garage full of expensive equipment, a supplemental gym membership for 4 months a year, and a collection of cables and accessories that nickel and dime you every few months. And none of that was on the price tag. Now here is the part that most financial conversations skip over entirely. The cost of these purchases is not only financial. Every object you own occupies physical space. Physical space in your home is not free. Your home costs you either rent or mortgage, which means every square foot of your home has a monthly price. When you fill that space with things that sit unused, you're paying for the privilege of storing them. Every single month, a home gym that you use 4 times a week is a reasonable investment of space. A home gym that you use twice a month is expensive furniture. And a boat that goes in the water 10 times a year while sitting on a rented trailer space for the other 355 days is a very costly way to store something you see occasionally through a chain-link fence. But the invisible cost of physical clutter is not just financial. There's a growing body of research and a significant amount of lived experience that connects visual clutter directly to psychological stress. When your environment is crowded with objects you are not using, your brain does not fully relax. The unused equipment is a constant, low-level reminder of intention that did not follow through, of money spent that has not paid off, of a version of yourself you imagined but have not yet become. You cannot always name it, but you feel it. You walk past the gym equipment, and something tightens slightly in your chest. You see the storage unit bill come through, and something heavy settles in your stomach. You are not just paying money. You are paying in stress and in the quiet erosion of confidence that comes from being surrounded by evidence of purchases that did not deliver what you hoped. That cost does not show up in any spreadsheet, but it is real. Let us come back to the money, because there is one more layer that most people never connect. When you spend money on the purchase and the ongoing cost of a major item, you're not just losing that money. You're losing what that money could have become. This is the concept of opportunity cost, and it is one of the most powerful and most invisible forces in your financial life. Every dollar you spend maintaining something you underuse is a dollar that is not growing, that is not being invested, that is not compounding, that is not building anything. If you're spending $200 a month on a storage unit for equipment and items that you access twice a year, that is $2,400 annually. Over 10 years, at a modest investment return, that money could have turned into something significantly larger. Over 20 years, the number becomes difficult to look at directly. You're not just spending $200 a month. You are choosing every month not to build wealth with that $200. Those are two very different things, and understanding the difference is the beginning of changing your relationship with money. Most people with stable incomes are not broke because they earn too little. They are financially stuck because a large percentage of what they earn is being silently absorbed by the ongoing cost of things they bought in moments of excitement, and now maintain out of obligation, sunk cost, or the vague belief that they will eventually use it more. That boat you take out 6 times a year is not a luxury. It is a recurring tax on your future. The gym you stopped going to but still pay for is not a small expense. Over 5 years, it is a number that would genuinely shock you if you wrote it down. The vacation home that spends 11 months of the year waiting for you is not an asset if the carrying costs exceed what it builds in value. These are not judgments. These are just the math that the price tag never showed you. So what does it actually look like to own things differently? It starts with a different question. Not, can I afford to buy this? But, can I afford to own this? Those two questions have very different answers. To answer the second question honestly, you need to do something most people never do. Before any major purchase, you sit down and you calculate the true annual cost of ownership, not the purchase price. Everything else, storage, insurance, maintenance, replacement parts, licensing, fuel, subscriptions, accessories, you will need to use it properly. Then you ask how many hours per year you realistically expect to use it. Divide the annual cost by the hours. What does 1 hour of actual use cost you? For some things, that number will be reasonable, and you will feel good about the purchase. For others, you will realize that renting or paying for access on demand would give you all the enjoyment at a fraction of the ongoing cost, without the storage, without the maintenance, without the invisible price tag that follows you home. The boat you take out 10 times a year, what would it cost to rent a boat 10 times a year? In many cases, significantly less than what you spend owning one. And when you rent, you do not pay for the 12 months it sits in storage. You do not pay for the engine repair. You do not pay for the insurance. You call, you go, you come back. Someone else absorbs the second cost. This is not an argument against ownership. It is an argument for ownership that is conscious, calculated, and honest. Own the things you use consistently. Own the things that genuinely appreciate or pay you back. Own the things where ongoing costs are low relative to ongoing use. And be ruthless about everything else, because everything else is quietly spending the money you meant to save. Here is the honest part that no one wants to say. A lot of the purchases that later become financial anchors are not really about the object. They're about an identity. The boat is not just a boat. It is the version of you who has a boat, who spends weekends on the water, who has figured out how to live the way certain people live. The home gym is not just equipment. It is the version of you who wakes up at 5 in the morning and trains before the world is awake, who is disciplined, who has that kind of life. The expensive camera is not just a camera. It is the version of you who is also a photographer, who sees the world artistically, who has a creative life beyond a job. There is nothing wrong with wanting those identities. But when we buy the object instead of building the identity, when we skip the habit and just purchase the symbol of the habit, we end up with the cost of the life without the life itself. The object sits there. The identity does not arrive. The money is gone. And the invisible price tag keeps adding up. The most financially stable people are not necessarily the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who have learned to be ruthlessly honest about the difference between what they want and what they are actually going to use. They buy less, and they use what they buy fully. They do not pay for identities. They build them. They own fewer things that demand ongoing maintenance, storage, insurance, and time, which means more of what they earn actually stays with them. And more of what stays with them actually compounds into something real over time. That is not deprivation. That is clarity. There's a version of your financial life where most of what you earn goes toward building something, where the money that leaves your account is doing deliberate work, either purchasing something you use and love consistently, or growing into something larger, where you're not leaking money through 40 small recurring drains that you stop noticing because each one individually seems small. That version is available to you. It does not require you to earn more. It requires you to stop paying the invisible price tag on things that stopped serving you a long time ago. Look at what you own. Not sentimentally, not defensively, just honestly. What are you paying every month for things you're not using? What is sitting in storage, costing you money every single month that you have not touched in over a year? What is the full annual cost of the things you bought in moments of excitement that have since settled into the background of your life? What would happen to your finances and to your stress levels if you canceled those recurring costs and redirected that money intentionally? You already know something is off. Most people do. They feel it in the slight anxiety when the credit card statement arrives, in the quiet frustration of working harder but not getting ahead, in the low-level stress of a home that feels crowded with things that do not quite bring the joy they were supposed to bring. That feeling is not a character flaw. It is information. It is telling you that the invisible price tags have added up, that the multiplier has been running silently in the background, that the gap between what you earn and what you're building is wider than it needs to be, and that the distance between where you are and where you want to be is not primarily about income. It is about clarity. You're not too far gone. The damage from past purchases is done, yes, but every month going forward is a choice. Every dollar that comes in is going somewhere, and you get to decide where. The invisible price tag only keeps working if you do not see it. Now you do.